Hello, Neogenians. Welcome to Dawn of the New Earth. Today, we're doing a deep dive on the monad, the one, the forbidden God that the church never wants you to hear about, and the God that some of the earliest Christians saw as the supreme source of all existence and all reality. And not just the early Gnostic Christians, but also the Pythagoreans, a lot of Hermeticists, alchemists, and more. It's a really important concept. And I just did a whole video on this topic, one of my edited videos and everything. But we're doing a deep dive here today, exploring it even further, because there is a lot to this. And it has everything to do with what you are, where you are, and why you're here. So we're going to get started right away. It's going to be good, my friends. Thanks for joining me here today. But as always, I want to remind you, before we get started, this is not just a channel. We are a revolution of consciousness here to wake the world the hell up and to make higher consciousness go viral, to spread what they tried to bury. So make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe to spread this like fire. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, "I set the world on fire, and I watch it as it blazes." So let's set the world on fire. Not literally, of course, don't do that. No arson, please. But knowledge, the fires of awakening. Let's do that. The fires of transformation. If you want to help out even more, you can become a member. If you want to help out in a free way, just like, share, subscribe. But if you want to help more, you can become a member. You get access to a lot of great stuff like free downloads on inner transformation, alchemy, ritual work, Kabbalah, etc. And you also get access to our members-only videos. Check out the different tiers. There's hundreds of members-only videos probably at this point. And we're having a live recording of one right after this video that you can be a part of called The One Secret Teaching That Jesus Wouldn't Shut Up About. I'm just kidding. The one secret teaching that Jesus kept repeating and why you missed it. That's going to be good. So you can become a member, get access to all this great stuff, and it helps out the channel. You can also check out my books. I'm a Neogenian. I have a 5-part Neogenian series that I have written. And if you want another free way to support, follow me on Spotify. I have a channel on Spotify, and it's completely free to follow me over there. And we're reaching an entirely new audience, waking up more people on a new platform. So go follow me over there. It's completely free to do. Just look in the description of this video for links to all of those things that I just mentioned. Membership and Spotify and books, etc. Okay, but now let's get started, my friends. We are talking about the monad, the one, the supreme source of all reality. Because if you hear about Gnosticism, you may have heard that the god of Gnosticism is the monad. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But the truth is that the monad is a much older concept than just Gnosticism. We find the monad in the teachings of the Pythagoreans, the secret sect that Pythagoras formed, and they worshipped a symbol known as the tetractys and believed that all things came from the one. And so Gnosticism is kind of like the Christian mythos version of understanding what the one is. So let's, and if you're like, well, what the hell are you talking about? That's okay. We're going to dive into this and explain it all. First thing you got to know is this is the symbol of the monad. It's simply a circle with a point in the center of it. And that might seem like one of the most simplistic symbols out there, but it is actually one of the most important symbols in all reality, literally. And I'll show you why. It's actually, I don't know if you can see on screen, but I wear a ring of the monad. And on one side, on each side in Greek, it says Gnosticism, which is Greek for know thyself. Why does it say know thyself? Because when you know yourself, you will understand what the monad is, because that's what you are. When you understand yourself, you understand the one, you understand the monad, you understand all reality. And in fact, let me see if I can find the quote here. There's this great quote by Jesus in the book of Thomas the Contender, another Gnostic gospel, that says, "For he who hasn't known himself has known nothing." If you don't know yourself, you don't know anything. But he who has known himself has at the same time already achieved knowledge about the depth of the all, the source. No, if you don't know yourself, you don't know jack shit. You know nothing. If you do know yourself, you know everything. Not everything like you can predict the winning lotto numbers, but everything like You know what existence is, what you are, where you are, why you're here. Know yourself and you will know the universe and the gods, because you are the universe and the gods. In another Gnostic text called the Dialogue of the Savior, Jesus says, everyone who has known himself has seen it in everything. If you know yourself, if you understand what structure you are, what you actually are, you'll see it everywhere and in everything. Kind of like Neo in the Matrix, when he can see the code of the Matrix. And in the same text, Jesus also says, you will not be able to see the place of pure light as long as you are carrying flesh around. Now, that doesn't mean go unalive yourself. Don't do that. It means, though, if you think that you're just a bag of flesh and that's it, just a meat suit and nothing more, you'll never realize that you are the divine light. And the reason why I'm talking about all this with regard to the one and the monad, because we're going to explore what the one is and what the monad is. The reason why that I'm bringing this up is because I get a lot of questions like, well, how do I connect to the monad? How do I connect to the source? It's in almost every Gnostic text through self-knowledge. Know yourself, and that's how you know the source. That's how you know the one. Knowing yourself isn't easy. It's not like know yourself in terms of like, oh, what's my favorite ice cream? No, that's not what that means. It means realize the essence, the core of what you are. There's another next Gnostic text called, let's see, where is it here? It's called The Concept of Our Great Power. And in it, the author says to the reader, to you, why do you not ask what kind you will become, or rather how you came to be? In other words, stop getting distracted by this world of fast food and Netflix. And ask the questions that are important. It's saying, why don't you ever ask how you came to be, what you are, what you're transforming into? In that same text, it also says, yet you are sleeping, dreaming dreams, wake up and return. That's what this all is. It is the dream of the one. It is the dream of the one. That's what physical reality is. This is a collective dream. When you go to sleep and dream at night, that's a dream of one individual, you. It's a singular dream. And you can change the dream by thinking about it. If you're lucid and you want to change something, you can think about it, you can change it. Why? Because that dream is built from your energy patterns, your frequency patterns, and so it belongs to you. You can change it, you can transform it. This world is a collective dream. It works the same way, except it is formed by the frequency patterns of every soul, every mind in existence. So you can't change something just by thinking about it, because it's not just your energy contribution is infinitesimally small, because every mind in existence is contributing to the pool or the server of the public server, the public pool of this reality. But that's also why this is stable. It's a long, stable dream. Things do change. It just takes a long time. How do they change? Evolution. Evolution is the transformation of the collective dream at a very slow rate in comparison to a dream you have at night where you can just change things by thinking about it. Okay? So this is the dream of the one. We exist in the dream of the one. We are the one. We just don't know that we're the one. I mean, I know I'm the one. A lot of people who watch my channel know that they're the one. But I'm talking about most people are dreamers, sleepwalkers. They don't know that they are the one who hasn't awakened to the fact that they are the one. And the more of us that do awaken contribute to the collective consciousness of the absolute. The absolute is just another word for the one. The more that we become conscious that we are the one, the more the one becomes conscious because we are the one. And this collective of awakened souls that understand that they are the one, that's the church. That's what the church represents. The church isn't a brick and mortar building. It's not a place where people con you into paying 10% of your income. The church is a collective consciousness of awakened souls, awakened minds, the one's consciousness coming online, formed by mine and yours and the collective of all of us who have achieved that awakening. You can achieve, and if you haven't, you can. It's not easy to do, but you can. It's not something that you have to go meditate on a hill for 50 years to be able to achieve. You can achieve it. You just have to understand how. How? Know thyself. How do you know yourself? That is a complex question. And it's not something I'm going to explain in detail here. I'll touch on it. But I've written basically a 5-part book series on what that even means and how you do it. You have to understand your true nature, your true structure, what existence is. And to really begin to wake up, this isn't some ill-defined woo-woo abstract idea. It's literally the structure of a new, or the development of a new structure in your psyche. What in the Neogenian system we call the analog all. The analog all. The analog I is what allows for self-awareness. And every healthy human has a developed analog I. But very few humans have a developed analog all. It's the next evolutionary step in terms of mental transformation, developing that structure in the psyche, the analog all, which allows one to become conscious of the all, not just the I, but the all, which, what did Jesus say? He who has known himself has at the same time already achieved knowledge about the depth of the all. And I'm actually going to make a note to myself. Okay. So let's get started. Oh, has this been on the screen the whole time? Get out of there, Monad. Go away, Monad. How dare you take up half my screen? I didn't realize that was still up there. Okay, so let's crack open the secret book of John and see what Jesus has to say about the one. The one is the monad. And so the secret book of John opens with John having a vision of Jesus, and John is like, what the fuck? Jesus is here, and he's looking like light, pure light and all that. And basically Jesus says, hey, don't be afraid. I am the Father, the Mother, the Son. So this is also really cool to understand. In Gnosticism, the Trinity is Father, Mother, Son. Doesn't that make a lot more sense? Father, Mother, Son. It's a complete circuit. And so Jesus is saying, I'm the Trinity. I am the Father, the Mother, the Son. We'll actually see who this isn't just Jesus, but it's actually an entity called Barbelo. If we have time, I'm looking at the time right now. If we have time, I'll touch on what Barbelo is, because it's related to the one. It's actually the first thought of the one. But the first thought takes 3 forms: Father, Mother, and Son. But we'll see if we have time to get to that. And let's see. Okay. So let's see what Jesus says. Jesus is about, hey, look, I'm going to teach you about reality. Specifically, he says, I'm about to teach you what is and what was and what will be in order for you to understand the invisible world and the world that is visible. Okay? So this is what Jesus is saying. Look, I'm here to teach you about everything. What is now, what was, and what will be. Why? For you to understand the invisible world, the hidden world, the secret world, the mental domain, and the world that is visible, the dream that the mind of the one has. And Jesus starts off, what's the first lesson that Jesus teaches John here is about the one. And Jesus says, the one rules all, nothing has authority over it. It is the God, it is the Father of everything. So there is nothing higher than this God. And this is much higher than the God of the Bible, by the way. So the God of the Bible is the demiurge. We'll talk a little bit about the demiurge, but this is the source. It says Holy One, the invisible one over everything. It is uncontaminated, pure light, no eye can bear to look within. You can't look at it with physical eyes. It's an inner light. If anyone has experienced the pure white light of the source, that is the one, that is the monad. The one is the invisible spirit. It is not right to think of it as a god or as like God. It is more than just God. That's one of my favorite quotes. I love that. It's just so powerful. It's like, this is the one. It's not even right to think about it like God. Not right to think of it as a god or as like God. It is more than just what humans can conceive of as God, or what humans have conceived of as God. Nothing is above it. Nothing rules it. Since everything exists within it, it does not exist within anything. This is very important. Okay? So the symbol of the monad here, think of this circle as sort of like representing everything, all reality. And everything is contained within it, within that circle. Okay? So what Jesus is saying here, when he says everything exists within it, it does not exist within anything. That's not saying that, oh, you don't have the light within you. You do. But it's saying that the one is the highest reality. There's nothing that the one as a whole is inside of. Everything is inside it. So it's the whole reality. It's the entirety of reality. There's nothing above it. It's like, think of a pool. Think of a pool. A pool is not in the water. The pool contains water, but it's not in the water. That's not the most perfect analogy, but hopefully you get what's being said here because it's important. You have this thing that contains everything within it, so it's not in anything because everything that exists or can exist is in it. Like, you are not in your stomach. Your stomach is in you. You can put things into your stomach and things can be contained in yours, but you're not literally in your stomach. Your stomach is, so that's basically what Jesus is saying. Like, everything is in the one isn't in things. Since it is not dependent on anything, it is eternal. It depends on nothing for its existence. It is eternal. So how can that be? So I'll let you in on a secret, and this is key to understanding the one, and the Gnostics didn't understand this. But we do in the Neogenian system, and Kabbalists actually got really close to this as well. So how is it eternal? Is the one is not just the one, but it's also the zero and the infinity. So 1, 0, and infinity are actually a triple concept that are all intimately linked and related to each other. So 1, 0, and infinity are what in the it's kind of like the Neogenian trinity. It's in the Neogenian system. I'm Neogenian, by the way. It's the Neogenian trinity. 1, 0, and infinity. Because think about it. If the one contains everything, it contains infinite energy. So the one is infinite. So 1, infinity. What about 0? Well, the one in containing infinite energy contains all opposites within itself. Think of any number like 5. Well, for every number that you can think of, there's an equal and opposite number. -5 in this case. So for all positive valued energy, you have negative valued energy that sits together and perfectly balances to 0. So the energy doesn't annihilate each other. It just is in equilibrium. It's in balance. So that's how we get 0. The one contains infinite energy that balances to 0. And the reason why the one is eternal, meaning no beginning and no end, is because the concept of 0 is mathematically necessary. It has to exist. It must exist. It can't not exist. It is nothingness. Not nothingness as in emptiness, but nothingness as in perfectly balanced, which means that it has to exist because there is no rational reason that could prevent it from existing. It has to exist. Now, this is both the most simple and the most difficult thing to conceptualize or understand, because it's not a difficult concept, but it's at the very boundaries of our capacity to grasp certain concepts. It's our very conceptual limit. It's not something that we can't grasp. We can. It's just so. Anyway, long story short, again, I promise you, I'm not trying to plug my books. I just spend a lot of time writing these books for a reason. I have a 5-part book series. The first 2 books are all about understanding basically why zero has to exist logically and necessarily. So long story short, I'm just saying that I'm not going to be able to explain it to you in detail rigorously right now, or else this would be like a 30-hour long video. If you want more detail on like why this is, the reasoning behind it, you can check out my books. But the one isn't just the one, it's the infinity and the zero. It's one mind that contains infinite energy that balances to zero. That's the Neogenian trinity. That's sort of key to everything. You got to understand that. It's not just one, it's not just zero, it's not just infinity, it's all these concepts balanced together. And they go together. They go together. And like I said, the Kabbalists got really close to this. Kabbalah. So the Kabbalists basically said there are 3 negative veils to reality. So basically, before you get any kind of creation at all, there's Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. What is Ein? Ein means nothing. What does Sof mean? Sof is the infinite. So Ein Sof is like the endless nothing. The endless. So you have Ein, nothing, Ein Sof, the endless, or the endless nothing, or infinite. And then Ein Sof Or, which is the limitless light. So you have Ein, or nothing, or zero, Ein Sof, the endless, the infinite, which is very close to what we are talking about. And if you understand it to be a singular system, you get a 1 in there as well. But then what more does it? It's Ein Sof Or is the limitless light. So this now gets expressed as light. Okay, so that's super important. This is light. In Kabbalah, it's light. In Gnosticism, right here, it is absolutely complete and so needs nothing. It is utterly perfect light. So this is what we have to understand. The one is not just the one, it's also the zero, and it's the infinity. And it is expressed as a mind. Why mind? It's not material. Of light. Its thoughts are light. And so what we can understand is that the Gnostics obviously didn't know this, but if we take a look, so this is simply a circle, it represents the monad. Mathematically speaking, take a look at this green circle in the corner. If we add motion or movement to this, which the one does have motion and movement, that's how it thinks, what happens is we get waves. 2 sinusoidal waveforms, okay? So these blue waves are showing you basically another way to look at this information. So see how there are 3 components here. There's the circle, and then there's wave A and wave B, okay? So there's 3 components, the circle, the wave A, and wave B. So a circle is literally equal to wave A plus wave B. Just like 4 is literally equal to 2 plus 2. And there are 2 different ways of looking at the same concept. If I present to you a 4, and I also present to you a 2 plus 2, I'm presenting to you the same concept, just expressed in a different way. Just like you can take a look at this pen straight on, and it's like looks like a circle, or you look at the pen sideways, and it looks like a line, but it's still a pen. It's just looking at it from a different perspective. A circle that has motion is two waves from another perspective, which is incredibly important for those who might be familiar with mathematics. This is specifically Euler's formula. E to the ix equals cos x plus I sine x. That's the formula for it. You don't need to know that. I'm just throwing it out there for those in the audience who might be familiar with mathematics. But it basically looks like this when expressed mathematically. And here's another way to conceptualize it as well. You can see on the on the green side, we're showing the circle, and then we have the waves of the blue and yellow. So, I mean, this is incredibly powerful. Okay, so the Gnostics, of course, didn't know anything about this, but that's why this symbol is so incredibly powerful, because not only is it a circle, it is waveforms. And waveforms in the Neogenian system, this is what we understand to be inner light. So we see thoughts and light as the same thing, and so we can conceptualize this as inner light, and they are those waveforms. These waves aren't anything physical, they're conceptual, they're immaterial, they're mental. They're light. Light isn't physical. And so what's interesting about that, okay, is that, and I'm looking at the time, and I want to be able to move through this, so I'm going to have to not be able to explain things in as much detail as I want, but also when the one begins to think of itself, it differentiates. And how it differentiates is by sort of like copying itself. Not exactly like copying itself, but kind of. So imagine if this were, like, say you had Photoshop open, and you had this circle, okay? So you have this circle up in Photoshop. But imagine that you had like 100 different layers of circles, but they all were laying on top of each other, right? Well, if you had 100 circles, but they're all on top of each other, it's just going to look like one circle because there's nothing to differentiate them. But if you were to click and drag one of those circles over, well, it would suddenly look like two circles, right? And then if you click and drag again, look like three circles. Click and drag again, it'll look like 4 circles, and 5 circles, and 6 circles, and 7 circles, and 8 circles, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so the Gnostics describes this as sort of like the one looking into a mirror and reflecting into itself. But that's what's going on here. And why is that important? Is because for every circle that you get, you're getting more and more waves. And so you're getting a collection of frequency patterns, a collection of vibrations, a collection of sinusoidal waveforms. And why is that important? Because here's the cool thing. There's something known as the Fourier transform, an inverse Fourier transform. You don't really need to know what this is. If you want to, again, they're in my books. But basically what this describes, what that means is that any physically realizable wave function or signal, no matter how complicated, can be expressed as a combination of those basic sinusoidal waves, even if it's as complex as the universe itself. So that means these waves are literally the building blocks of reality. You can combine them to create any structure. How cool is that? And you can see a little graphic of this here. Again, if you don't know what this is, that's okay. But this shows the Fourier transform in action, where it's transforming frequency information to space-time information. This is actually the Fourier series, not the Fourier transform, but it's showing how you have various waveforms making up a particular signal. And the blue line represents the frequency domain, and the red line represents the space-time domain. So you can express this information as spatial information or temporal information or frequency information. Long story short, what's super cool about this is that you have the building blocks of reality, and through the Fourier transform, you can take pure waves, pure frequencies, and construct spatial and or temporal signals In other words, transform frequency to space and time, mind into matter. This is how the one is going to be able to dream itself, dream within itself. It's not magic, it's not a miracle, it's mathematics. It's light. It's what we are, it's what you are, and what I am, and what everyone is. Now, there's one other thing that I want to throw in there, and there's a lot coming in this video, so try not to feel overwhelmed. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry, this is a lot to take in. So you have this idea of the one, which is this mind of light. But what actually is true is there isn't just one, there's many of them. And each one is a soul. And that's what you are. But if you take the collective of all of these, it forms one overarching system. So there is still like a one of ones, the absolute one. But I, as a soul, am a 1, a 0, and infinity. You, as a soul, are a 1, a 0, and infinity. Someone else, as a soul, is a 1, 0, and infinity. Together, when our souls are considered together as a collective, that is the absolute one, the overarching one. So the Gnostics, again, didn't really understand how to conceptualize this. They saw us as like divine sparks of the one. But that's essentially what we are, is we are souls within a system that we form as a collective. So think of, let's say you have 10 computers all hooked up together, forming a network. Those 10 computers are unique individual computers, but they form a network. The network exists because those computers are there. Take away the computers, they're not part of that network anymore. Same thing like bricks in a house. If you take the bricks away, the house doesn't exist. So that's where in the Neogenian system we differ a bit from Gnosticism, is that Gnosticism just has this sort of idea of like just one, and we're like little pieces of it. Well, in the Neogenian system, the one is a collective result of all of our souls together that express individually. So again, not enough time to get into all that. Wish I could. I'd love to talk about it, but I want to move on and get to more of this. And always, be proud of yourself for watching videos like this, because this is hard. All right. So if you find it challenging, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, feel proud that you are making the effort to watch this, because it means that you care about this. Most people are like, no, I just want to hear about the fun stories of the archons and stuff. And those are fun stories and they're important and powerful stories. But this is the hard stuff. This is the important stuff. This is how you start to know yourself. You're starting to understand, when you know yourself, when you know what you are, you'll know what reality is, because you are reality. So when we're talking about the monad, we're also talking about you. So understanding this isn't some sort of like understanding some abstract, distant God in the sky. It's understanding what you are. This is how you know yourself. That's why when you know yourself, you know the one, you know the monad. And remember, in the Neogenian system, we have multiplicity of them. That's why in the Neogenian system, we use the word zeta to describe a soul, so as not to confuse it with other concepts. So we are all zetas, we are all souls, eternal, ones, zeros, and infinities. That's what each of us are. We are each a self-contained trinity that makes up the Zetic network, the absolute, the one. Okay, so let's go back to the secret book of John. The one is without boundaries. Nothing exists outside of it to border it. It's everything, so there's nothing outside. Let's see. The one can't be seen. You can't see it with physical eyes. It's just like you can't see what your friend is dreaming. because it's an internal state. Now, you can experience the light of the one and yourself through altered inner states. Absolutely, 100%. I've experienced that in psychedelic trips. Remember, don't do anything dangerous or illegal. It's not necessary to do those. But I have, and it's accessible. It's accessible. You hear it in like near-death experiences and everything, but obviously don't hurt yourself and all that. You know, use some common sense. But it's something that people have experienced through meditation, altered states, etc. The one is infinite light. There it is in Kabbalah. That's Ein Sof Or, the infinite light. It's not perfect or not blessed, and it's not divine because it's superior to such concepts. This is all limitation. The one is not a being among other beings. It is vastly superior. It is outside of realms of being and time. So it is outside the realm of being and time. But remember, everything is within the one. So being and time is in the one. So when we say that the one is outside of being and time, it's not like, it doesn't mean like, oh, the one is, being and time is here and the one is over here. So the one is outside of it. No, that's not what it means. It means that the one, being in time, is in the one, and so the one is outside being in time. You could imagine being in time existing within this circle, for example, just as allegorically, metaphorically. If we consider this circle to be all reality, the one, within it, you could place, let's say, a smaller circle to represent being in time. Being in time is inside the one is not inside being in time. If you put that's another example. If you put a little rubber duck in the pool is not in the rubber duck. The rubber duck is in the pool. And in that sense, you would say the pool is outside the rubber duck because it's not inside the rubber duck. But remember, being in time arises because of the one. Its internal energy patterns, its limitless light, can combine and express itself via an inverse Fourier transform as space and time. So it's an expression of the one, but it's different. It's a different way that the one expresses itself. The one receives nothing from anything. It simply apprehends itself in its own perfect light. That's what the one does. It just apprehends itself. There's nothing else but the one. So it continues by, the one is majestic. It's light producing light, life producing life, blessedness producing blessedness, knowledge producing knowledge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's endless light that is everything and all things, and nothing can contain it. It contains everything. Like, you get the idea, right? So it gives forth light beyond measure. So here's the interesting thing here. So it says it starts to so previously they just referred to it as the one. And at some point they say like, oh, the one is father of everything. But the one is the predominant title that they're using to refer to this. Now Jesus switches it up a little bit and starts to refer to it as the Father. And Jesus says, do I still have this on screen? Yes, let's get that off screen for a minute. So Jesus says, we would know nothing about the ineffable and nothing of the immeasurable without the help of the one who comes forth from the one who is the Father. He alone has informed us. Okay? So let me make a note to myself. I always have video ideas and points that I want to get back to. Okay, so it says the Father is surrounded by light. He apprehends himself in that light. So is the Father the same thing as the One? Well, not exactly. And I'm going to explain why. It's going to be apparent in a minute. The Father is surrounded by light. He apprehends himself in that light, which is the pure spring of the water of life. He is conscious of his image everywhere around him, perceiving his image in the spring of spirit pouring forth from himself. He is enamored by the image he sees in the light water, the spring of pure light water enveloping him. His self-aware thought came into being, appearing to him in the effulgence of his light. She stood before him. This then is the first of the powers prior to everything arising out of the mind of the Father. Her light reflects his light. Okay, so this is Barbelo. Barbelo is the first thought of the One. But here's the thing. The reason why, in my interpretation, that it's more directly being called the Father now, is to distinguish it from Barbelo, which is the mother. So, why is this important? Is because, and how this works is, if you have the One, and you have Barbelo, the mother, when you refer to the Father, you're automatically referring to something, to a distinct concept. The Father as distinct from the mother. If you say the Father, well, that's not the mother, right? But the One is everything. So do you see the difference? The One is everything. The One is Father and mother. So to reference the Father in distinction from the mother is not to reference the One in its entirety. So you could kind of think of the One, the Father, the mother. So it says, and this is Barbelo. But here's the thing. Her light reflects his light. They reflect into each other, which is really beautiful. She's the image of the perfect virgin spirit. It's called the One is, they also refer to the One as the virgin spirit, by the way. Not because it can't get a match on Tinder, but because virgin spirit means it doesn't need anything external to create. It creates within itself. So it doesn't copulate with anything. There's nothing outside of it that it has to combine with to make something. It makes something within itself. So that's what the virgin birth represents as well. This idea of being self-producing. It's an allegory. It's not literally about sex or anything. It's about self-production. So she is the initial power, glory of Barbelo. She praised the Virgin Spirit because she arose from him. This is the first thought. It is the Spirit's image. She is the universal womb. She is before everything. Now, here's the really interesting part. She is mother father. She is mother father. First man, Holy Spirit. Thrice male, thrice powerful, thrice named. So there's kind of a lot going on because there's like different ways to, the reason why it's confusing is because there's different ways to look at things. It's kind of like you can look at the pen this way or you can look at the pen this way. Barbelo is the mother father. But not only that, but Barbelo is the father, the mother, and the son. That's why she is, possibly why it says she's thrice named. But it also says androgynous eternal realm. So this realm is androgynous because it's the father, the mother, the son. It's all different aspects of a singular entity. Because everything is the one. There's nothing outside the one. So it's not like literally everything is within it. And so if you have male and female, it's androgynous because it's all inside and balanced, like positive and negative. And by male and female, it doesn't mean like literal sex or gender in the way that we understand it today. It just means polarized forces, like positive and negative. So it continues a bit, and essentially it says the Father looked into Barbelo. Barbelo conceived and bore a spark of light. The only begotten child of the pure light, the Father. And this is the Christ, the divine autogenous. So it creates this being called the autogenous, the divine autogenous Christ. So autogenous means self-generated. That's what autogenous means. And so Barbelo, the father and the so we have the father and the mother. The mother, or the father, looks into the mother, and from that, the child, the son, it's called the son, but if you want to be more neutral, the child is born. And so you have the father as kind of like the mind, and the mother as the first thought of that mind. Barbelo is literally called first thought in another Gnostic text called Three Forms of First Thought. By the way, that's why she has three. There's a book called Three Forms of First Thought, because the first thought is Barbelo, and she has three forms: Father, the Mother, and the Son. And so Jesus is Barbelo. Barbelo is Jesus, or Christ rather, not like Jesus the human being, but the Christ principle. That's what's important to understand. So this autogenes Christ, this Christ principle, what's it represent? It represents awareness, because the mind, when it says the Father looked into Barbelo and she conceived and bore a child, this is, mythical speak for the mind recognized itself and became self-aware. So Christ is the principle of awareness. That's what Christ is. It's not some guy with sandals floating around like Chris Angel and multiplying fish and loaves. That's not Christ. That's Jesus. I don't believe Jesus did those miracles. I believe Jesus was a historical figure, but didn't do those miracles. That was wild embellishment and allegorical. But anyway, Jesus became the Christ when Jesus looked within and realized he was the Christ. When Christ is awareness. So you become, the principle of Christ is the awareness principle. And so when you look within and become aware of yourself, or know thyself, you become Christ. And this is all over Gnostic texts. In the Gospel of Philip, it says you have seen the Christ and you have become the Christ. You have seen the Father and you will become Father. It says when you understand the secret knowledge that this person is no longer a Christian but a Christ. In another Gnostic text, Jesus says, be better than I. In the Gospel of Thomas, he says, when you drink from my mouth, understand his words, you will become me and I will become you, and nothing and all things hidden will be revealed to you. In other words, you become Christ by activating the principle of awareness within you. So that's what all this is. Like, this is not history. People are like, oh, well, how can you, some people are like, well, why do you think that the Gnostic texts are true? I don't believe that they're literally true. I don't believe they're historical documents. They're stories. The Bible isn't true. The Bible are stories. The Gospels were anonymous. They weren't written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and they're stories. But that doesn't mean that they're not powerful. I just don't look at them as history, because they're not history. What these things are powerful symbolism that allows us to connect to our unconscious mind. Because we can talk about, sinusoidal waveforms and the source and mathematical equations and psychological principles, such as developing the analog I and the analog all. That's great. But that is all left brain thinking, which is good. We want that, but we also want to connect to right brain thinking, which thinks in terms of meaning, stories, symbolism. So your unconscious isn't going to understand a mathematical equation, but it will resonate with the symbol of, let's say, the Father and the Mother bearing the son or the child. And so when you start to understand these stories in symbolic form, you are engaging with the part of you that communicates symbolically, which is a huge part of us. And that's why it's so important to have left brain hemispheric functions and right brain hemispheric functions both very well developed and working together. You want to be able to understand mathematically how reality is rationally built from sinusoidal wave patterns and what existence truly is in a rigorously rational way. But you also need to be able to connect with the symbolism, to have that connection to the meaningful aspect, the symbolic aspect, and to communicate with your unconscious, because your unconscious communicates in symbolism. That's why your dreams are full of symbolism and archetypes, because it's your unconscious communicating with you. And so learning this stuff is about learning. So just even the idea of left brain and right brain working together, that's a left brain way of understanding it. What's a right brain way of understanding it? The reunion of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve was the split. Adam was a singular being, split in two to limit humans' power. Left brain, right brain. And then Jesus and Mary represents the power of the bridal chamber, the reunion. So do you see the difference? We can talk all day about left brain analytical ways of understanding this stuff, and we need that. We can talk about the hemispheric functions of the brain. We can talk about mathematics, but we can also talk about the split of Adam and Eve and Jesus and Mary as the bride and the bridegroom, giving birth to the child whose name is Rest. Rest meaning completion, whole, unity. So we have two very different modes of understanding reality and ourselves, and we need both. The problem is, in our world, most people prefer one or the other, so most people are very underdeveloped in something that is crucial for unity and wholeness. That's why it's so important, but one of the hardest things to do. Because if you're an artsy symbolic person, the last thing you probably want to do is go take a math class. If you're a physicist who's like an atheistic physicist that's all just about numbers, the last thing you probably want to do is look at the symbolism in tarot cards. That's just woo-woo bullshit, they would think. But we need both. We need to be able to analytically understand what the hell this place is, where we are, so we can understand ourselves better, develop technology, develop medicine, develop a more interconnected world, a more spiritual world, a more unified world, a more loving world, a more empathetic world. I mean, that's why I'm vegan, by the way. I'm vegan because I want to reduce unnecessary suffering in the world. And analytically, I understand that we are all expressions of each other. You were an animal at one point in your past life, and you probably wouldn't want to be tortured in a factory. So that's why I choose to be vegan, to reduce unnecessary suffering. But you see that is a result of me analytically, rationally understanding what existence is and making the choice to reduce suffering. But then there's also the right brain way of understanding reality through symbolism that allows us to connect with our unconscious mind. And that's incredibly important for not just understanding ourselves, but for forming that link to the unconscious to be able to gain powerful experiences, powerful intuitions, powerful connections. So both is so important. And I just want to hammer that home again and again, because I think it's something that people often overlook or think, oh, yeah, that's nice, and don't really give it too much thought. But it's the key to everything. You have to be able to unity. That's another thing that's a constant theme in Gnosticism. Unity, 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 unity. What do the archons do? Division, 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 division. The first thing one of the first things the demiurge did was divide, the human into Adam and Eve to limit their power. And then what did Christ do as an expression of the one? Gave Adam and Eve the fruit of knowledge to try and unify again. So if you read the Gnostic text, you'll see that it's a whole battle versus unity and division, or knowledge and ignorance. Yaldabaoth splits Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve end up having a kid named Seth. Seth represents their reunion. Seth's children start to get really smart, so Yaldabaoth gets pissed and floods the world. But Seth's descendants, they survive in a cloud of light. They build a city of enlightenment. What's that city of enlightenment? According to Gnostics, Sodom, from Sodom and Gomorrah. And what does God do? Well, or Yaldabaoth, well, drowning everyone, water didn't work, so let's try fire. Tries to destroy the city, or does destroy the city. And, Jesus comes on the scene. What does Yaldabaoth do? Crucifies. And so, do you see these stories are resonating on a symbolic level? It didn't literally happen. There are archonic forces, yes, and there are forces of unity. There are cosmic forces as well as internal forces, but it's not how it's literally described in these stories. It's expressed in a symbolic way of something extremely complicated, but expressed in a symbolic way. And so we need to have both together. Hopefully that makes sense. You know what? If it doesn't, tell me in the comments and let me know what needs to be explained better, because I think this is one of the most critical points to understand, and to really understand what we're doing here and like why the hell we even look at this stuff. Like the Gospel of Judas isn't about actually Judas, and like Jesus, when in Philip, in the Gospel of Philip, Jesus kisses Mary Magdalene, and Mary Magdalene is described as Jesus' wife. Does that mean literally, historically, Jesus married Mary Magdalene? Maybe, but it doesn't matter. And because in the Gospel of Peter, if you look or Philip, if you look in context, it's all about the union of the bride and the bridegroom, and he even describes how the kiss represents transmission. And so, and he talks about how Adam and Eve were split and they need to be unified again. And so this is so Jesus kissing Mary, for example, isn't about like, ooh, this is a really cool Dan Brown conspiracy historical thing that happened. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but it doesn't matter. What matters is resonating with that symbolism of combining, unifying, marrying opposites. That's why in the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, let's see, when you make the two into one, opposites into one, the two into one. When you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the upper like the lower, and thus make the male and the female the same, then you will enter the kingdom. And then he, of course, says, he who drinks from my mouth will become like I am, and I will become he, and everything hidden will be revealed to him. Let me check my notes to see if was anything else that I wanted to discuss. We talked about the mother and the father. One thing that I want to mention that's really interesting. So we have the demiurge, Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is spawned by the one. Everything is harmonious in the one until it isn't. And when harmony is broken, Yaldabaoth is spawned, and Yaldabaoth creates the material world. This is story form understanding of the analytical process of the fact that when sinusoidal waveforms go from in phase to out of phase, they create a holographic projection. When light slows, according to David Bohm, it becomes matter. So fracture, projection, material formation, that's what the one acting out of alignment with itself through Sophia, giving birth to the demiurge, represents. Do you see how you can almost have a split screen of one explanation on one side, phase transitions, holographic projection, Fourier transforms, and then on the other side, Sophia wanting to create without her consort, and so giving birth to Yaldabaoth, who creates the material world. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Okay? And the reason why I'm saying it, because people kill each other because they don't get that. Like, oh, well, my God is the better. It's all talking about the same thing. And so it's just two different ways of understanding it, but you need both together to reach higher consciousness, to really grasp what the hell is going on and what this place is and how to connect with your true self. Know thyself. That's how you know yourself. By doing this, by understanding this, by marrying the opposites within. So anyway, just one thing interesting that I want to point out, the demiurge creates the material world. And in Genesis, what does the demiurge say? He says, let there be light, and there was light. Well, that's a huge poof, red flag. Why? Because you only need to create light if you are darkness. The one doesn't create light because it is light. The one doesn't need to say, let there be light. It's already there. It's eternal. Yaldabaoth, in the Secret Book of John, the God of the Bible, is described as literally ignorant darkness. But he stole light from his mother Sophia, and so has the power of creation. And, that's big red flag. Let there be light. Why wasn't there light before? The one doesn't need to say, let there be light, because it is light. The lights of Yaldabaoth, they're false lights. Christianity is a false light. It's darkness parading as light. They're archonic forces. Our archonic forces rule the world right now through mainstream religion, through the billionaire elite. They manipulate consciousness and feed off negative emotion. These forces are in everything and everyone, including me and you. Those forces exist within us. So this is all about learning how to manage and transform the energy that exists within you. Because remember, energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. And that is the key. Your inner archons, we all have them, they can be transformed. That's why the Valentinian Gnostics believed that the demiurge could be redeemed, that the demiurge could realize that he was wrong and actually starts to help humanity. Now, remember, that's story form. What's analytic form? It's the ego self, Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, acting in service to the higher self, the one. So we could put it in terms of psychology, in terms of the ego and the self and psychological wholeness, or Yaldabaoth being redeemed in the service of the one and helping to transform things. Two different ways of understanding the exact same thing. But they do different, you understand it in different ways. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else I want to get to here? This is a really cool quote. I'll just throw this quote in. This is from a book called the Tripartite Tractate, which is a Valentinian Gnostic text. The Father is a single one, like a number. Literally is, though, but yeah. For he is the first one and the one who is only himself. As for the totalities, everything, he is the one who begot them and created them. He is without beginning and without end. Infinite. The one and the infinity. The only thing they don't really have is the zero. But the Kabbalists got the zero in there. with ein, zero, nothing, ein, nothing, ein, nothing, ein sof, the endless nothing, ein sof, or the limitless light. So all talking about different things from different angles. The Pythagoreans talked about the one. The Hermeticists talk about everything coming from the one. In quantum mechanics, some of the founders of quantum mechanics said that reality is a mind, a singular mind. Max Planck said it. Erwin Schrödinger said it. And Heisenberg said that Plato and the Pythagoreans were right and that reality is mental and mathematical. But see, they're coming out from the left brain way of understanding things, which is fine. It's good. We need that. There's a lot of dumb people out there. We need left brain understanding, but we also need right brain meaning as well. Because what a boring world would this be stripped of meaning? What would be the point then if we didn't have meaning? We'd just be robots. I don't want to be a robot. You want to be a robot? No. We have enough robots in the world right now. We don't need more. We don't need more robots. Okay. So, all right, I think we're going to end it there because that was a lot to take in. And I hope you guys, hey, this is one of those videos. If you made it to this part, give yourself a round of applause. Seriously, I'm not kidding. This is hard stuff. So that's great. Tell me in the comments if you made it to the end of the video, actually. Tell me. I'm curious how many people actually watch this one to the end. So tell me in the comments. And as always, my friends, I want to remind you, we are way more than a channel. We are literally the consciousness of the one coming online by spreading higher consciousness, by making this go viral. So hit like, share, subscribe, spread this like fire. If you want to help out even more, become a member. You get access to free downloads on inner transformation, as well as, Kabbalah and alchemy, as well as members only videos. We're having a recording of the next members only video in just a few minutes. You can be a part of it, called The One Secret Teaching Jesus Wouldn't Stop Repeating and Why We Still Miss It. I talked a bit about my book series today. You can check out my books. It's a 5-part series. This is book number 1. It's Neogenesis on the New Mind. And then if you're looking for a free way to support, follow me on Spotify. It's a great way to support for free because you can follow me for free and it helps us reach an entirely new audience on a new platform, which is awesome. So please go do that right now if you have one. Links to all of those things are in the, my Spotify channel and my books, etc. There are in the description of this video. As always, a big thank you to you, to all you, my friends, everyone who supports. I appreciate it. And we couldn't do this without you. You are awesome. Big shout out to Renaissance Fairy, Cassidy, Angela, Dallas, Nucelina, Eric, Soul, Vivian, Tornado, Banshee, Pop Out, Hyper Saiyan, Chris, and everyone else. Thank you very much. My name is Morgue, and I'm Neogenian ad Astra.